Hey everyone, welcome to Trinic Tips. I'm your host, Bob Chatterton, and joining me again this week is John Alliegro with South Bay Concrete. And had to have John back on the program here, especially for this one. And he's been in this business for more than a dozen years. So the topic of the day, we've gotten lots of feedback, lots of requests to talk about subjects. And unsurprisingly enough, the one that came up quite often and the most was sealers in every aspect. But today, we kind of want to talk about the repair of sealers and how do we go about that and what's the whole mindset behind it. So I'm gonna let John speak on this and maybe give us a little bit of story there, John, of what your experience has been for all your years that you've been in this business of fixing some sealers.
Yeah. So as far as sealers go, I think it's our Achilles heel in this industry, obviously. So the repair is an inevitable job. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is not only repairing your own work, but repairing other fabricators' work. I've gotten tons of calls over the years about coming in. This guy did, this countertop for me. Can you come take a look at it? He's not returning my calls. I got some staining. I got some scratching. The sealer's peeling,
White rings.
Yeah. Cup rings, everything, And, I think I was always in the beginning a little apprehensive to take that work on because, it's the idea of you touch it, you own it kind of a scenario.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times. A lot of people that obviously call us and ask for advice of, hey, I don't know what it is or whatever, how do I fix it? Should I fix it? Should I even touch it? And I think that I know for a fact that there's a mindset out there of just that. Like, once I touch it, I own it, and I don't want to get into that, but it doesn't really have to be that way, does it?
No. And the idea of touching somebody else's work as well. I think that ties into the artisan aspect of our industry. But, if you look at it from the perspective of if somebody hired a plumber and the plumber did a bad job at their house and they called up another plumber to come in and do that, to repair that job. And he said, well, I'm not going to touch this because this is Jim's plumbing. And, now the homeowner's kind of stuck out on a limb and they just, what's their recourse?
Yeah, and that's especially for our industry, because I think what most people, if not all people, are pulling for our industry. And at the end of the day, we don't want it to have a bad name, even if someone puts out a job that was, subpar and that was the source of the issues, or it was just the wrong customer and they abused the living daylights out of the countertop. At the end of the day, we still want concrete to have a good name.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've seen both of those. I've seen really atrocious work, and I've also seen stuff where it was obvious that the homeowner just destroyed the countertops. And I think the most important thing is I never badmouth whoever the installer was.
No, you can't.
It doesn't. I would never walk in and say, "Oh my God, this is horrible."
You might think it, but not say it. Yeah. So,
I've heard though that it happens,
yeah.
and it's a tough thing to deal with. But, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is that we get the customer happy with the product because that only helps our industry as a whole.
Right. And aside from the fact, it's just the right thing to do. That's just integrity to not badmouth your, competitor or fellow artisan. And like we said, the homeowner just wants it fixed. And if you could be the source of that and make money at it, because let's not forget that, we do run for-profit businesses, and going back to do something out of the goodness of your heart, it's a little bit different if it's a warranty repair or something along those lines, which we could get into the details of that, which, warranting sealers for the life of the countertop is a death maneuver in this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that you're absolutely right. There's a good profit margin going in and taking care of a reseal. You can kind of price them appropriately, because at a certain point, the homeowner has very limited options. They can reseal, fix what they have, or they can replace.
Yeah.
And those two options are both going to be pricey. And if you can come in at a price point that's just below the replacement cost, that, I've done reseals for $65, $75 a square foot. Some guys in some parts of the country aren't even getting that for fabrication to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of people go, oh, I can't charge that. Well, why not? Because if you do it right, when you leave, it is as good or better than new. And I always
leave it better than new.
Yeah, and I like the analogy of marble.
Exactly.
Right? Guys go, you have a marble countertop refinished. They come in, they wet grind that thing in place most of the time. Sometimes now with the HEPA they can dry grind it. But it's totally refinished. It's redone, retreated, and looks like $1 million. And like you said, probably better than it did when it's new. So,
no, I have actually a project that comes to mind. I got from a guy that I know that his main business is just refurbing stone, natural stone. So he'll go in, he has a yearly maintenance contract for marble, granite, whatever, and they'll go back every year or 2 years, reseal, re-sand, do whatever they need to do, and that's it. And whenever he gets a concrete job, he passes it along to me. And that there's one job in particular that I'm thinking that I did that has led into so much more work from the contractor that it was a home run. And that one is one that I did get $65 a square foot.
So let's talk about that. Give me the details on that one. Obviously, you're not going to name, the source of the issue, but talk about the issue.
There was several issues ranging from. So this particular project had everything from vanities, kitchen sinks, flooring tile, and fireplace surrounds and bathtubs. And basically the whole project, the sealer failed on. But that being said, as I started to kind of see as things were going, I started to realize that they were also being abused. So it was kind of a combination of the two. But, me and you talked about some different plans on coming up with how to remove the existing sealer once we kind of figured out what it was, and then how to apply a combination of sealer to get it to work for, best case for the customer. And I think that's something that you have to look at, because there's more than one ways to skin a cat, in the sense of, am I going to put a solvent-based acrylic down before I put down, H13 or something like that, as a little bit of a, am I going to do some sort of a sacrificial on top of that?
Right. There's tons of different choices. And I know that people that are watching this are going to go, well, which one do I use where? But quite honestly, it's so darn job specific that it's hard to say. I mean, heck, in some cases, it might need to be that on-site conversation that you and I had of, okay, send me a pic. What is that? I don't know. Well, try this. Does it dissolve with acetone? Does water darken it? Does it scrape off easily? The litany of questions that we always ask to try and get a good, solid assessment before. Really what you want to do is figure out why it failed before you go to fix it, because you don't want to do it again. If it's an underlying issue, either with the structure of the concrete or moisture or, like you said, abuse, we're still going to go ahead and fix it anyway in the case of abuse, but you're going to have to, there's a lot of benefit in re-educating the homeowner of, hey, if you didn't want to pay for this all over again, here's some things you can do.
Yeah. And then I think also on top of that is offering a yearly or biannual maintenance program. that you can, now you're going back and you're sprucing it up. Now, it's another stream of revenue. And you're making sure that your repair sticks.
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to check in on it. I think some people have been burned so many times by sealers that they figure if they don't get a phone call, that's great. Like I never even want to go back. But in the long run, it's again going back to concrete getting a bad name. In the long run, we don't want that to happen. And if it's, if you're a decorative concrete manufacturer and you don't want to be bothered with sealer problems, then there's actual companies out there, like you said, you got a friend that they specialize in refinishing surfaces, tile floors, countertops, both marble, granite, and concrete, or all marble, tile, and granite, concrete. So I'm kind of in the same mindset as you, because I never want to turn down a good opportunity, but there is money to be made in maintaining a surface that needs to be maintained.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not big on being out of the shop, but you build a relationship with a guy, like, for example, the guy that I'm talking about, and he goes back and takes care of an easy maintenance. It's a lot different than a restoration of a countertop.
Truth.
So it's a quick spruce up, that they can hit it with the Scotch-Brite, do what they got to do. They don't have to know the real fine points or details that go into it, and they can just zip through it relatively quick. And then that contract is worth something. It's worth something to him, and it's worth something to you.
Right. So would you subcontract them out for that work? Or
for really kind of just going and checking up and, doing a quick spruce. Yes, absolutely.
Nice. So, my very first company, we built convenience stores. I started when I was 21 years old, and I hated the service work. I hated it. I just wanted to do the construction. And now that I'm older and I look back on that, I really wish that we had done service contracts where we would, instead of jumping out of bed in the middle of the night because the gas station or convenience store, none of the pumps worked, and there were cars backed up, and making an emergency out of it. I really wish that we had service contracts in place that, number one, they give you steady cash flow. Number two, it just keeps stuff from breaking, so the owner's happy. They don't have a giant bill to pay. They get to pay a little bit every, like in the case you're talking about, they get to pay a little bit every year to maintain them. So I think that's a great business plan as far as another revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you can at that point, you can go in, if you're in and out quick, I mean, it's $5, $10 a square foot. You can do, if they're up to speed and they don't get abused, you can do 5 or 6 of them, maybe in a week, one a day, you know what I mean? 1 week out of the year, or however many you want to take on, you can do that.
Sure. So, obviously I know there's products we offer, some that we call like renewable finishes that can be used for maintenance products like that. And we'll have more episodes on this. Now we're talking about the concept of it, and we can talk about some of the techniques and things like that, which I think all the viewers are going to really want to watch is, a technique. So tell me just basically like what you would do. You get the phone call, or let's stick with the job you were talking about. What was your protocol of fixing that?
Yeah, so that one was kind of, it was interesting because it needed a lot of work. So I went in, I took a look, took measurements, figured out my square footage, and then took a lot of pictures, went home, kind of reviewed all the pictures, kind of looked at everything, figured out my square footage, and then tried to come up with a plan based on, the condition of the countertops and how long it was going to take to kind of, what I thought, to sand down through the sealer, get to where it needed to be, and then bring it back to where it should have been. So that was kind of the idea of what I came up, how I kind of figured out the pricing on that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that basically ended up, I think that one was a little bit higher, actually. I think we came in at about, well, on average, I think it worked out to a little over $65 a square foot. But only because I broke it down for different pricing for different areas. You know, the vanities seem to be less abused than the kitchen. The kitchen, you know, and then there was floor tile that was not as bad as the vanities. So when I kind of added it all up, I gave them different square foot pricing because, you know, you're using different product. You're bringing the material back to a different level, and the time is not the same. So that's kind of how I went about it.
Gotcha. Did you actually end up stripping, let's say, the kitchen counter? Because that was probably the worst. Did you end up stripping that one back totally?
We ended up having to, yeah, we tried originally, obviously, we tried the acetone, we tried denatured alcohol, trying to get that off and get it opened up enough to, and none of it was working. So we ended up having to just dry sand it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's one of the things a lot of people ask us is, okay, how do I strip it? And hopefully they ask before they try it, because we get calls all the time of people that go in and try and strip stuff with paint stripper. And it's just one of those things that you don't want to do that. Concrete is porous. And if you dissolve that stuff and it gets down in the pores of the concrete, it's not going to be friendly when you try and put another sealer over it. It's just not. And it's very, very hard to get out if you can. You might end up doing more damage than you actually, more bad than good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard of guys using all different kinds of crazy things, and it seems to be the acetone, the denatured alcohol, and, good old sandpaper seems to be the best options that I've come across.
Yeah, and that really kind of depends on what sealer. I mean, if you had asked me, hey, what do I do? The first question is, all right, well, what sealer is on it? Can you find out? If you know who did the job, give them a call. They don't want to go back and fix it, and you don't have to, put them on the spot. But at least they could do is tell you what sealer they used. If not, then there's a couple tests that we can do. But really, it comes down to, if you can strip it easily, like with acetone or denatured alcohol, then it's a sealer that doesn't dissolve, and it's not, those solvents evaporate quickly. So they're not going to stay wet on the surface and soak down into the concrete. And in the same token, you don't want to dump acetone on it. You want to just use a rag that's a little bit damp. Yes. But more often than not, it's just better off to sand it off. I mean, if it's outdoors, you might get lucky and then it's a wet sand and it can go a little bit faster. But if it's indoors, it might just be dry sand and dust collection. But that's the reason why you have to get paid to do repairs. If you're back there, thinking that you're, feel bad for charging money to fix something that at the end of the day wasn't your fault, then charge for it. That's kind of where we started this conversation.
Absolutely. And educate the homeowner on what they should expect when you finish, and don't overpromise. I think that's also key.
Oh, heck, we could take that statement and slap it right down in front of the sealer conversation that we'll have on the show at some point in time of, how do you sell concrete countertops? Well, like you said, sealer seems to be the Achilles heel of the industry, and it kind of always has, because it's what everybody touches and looks at, and it's what protects our work. And if you don't set the right expectations, then you're setting yourself up for a failure for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was an important thing that I, getting to work with this contractor more and more. One of the things she was happy about is she's happy with my honesty about this stuff, what she can expect. She's okay with it as long as you explain to her what she should expect.
Heck yeah. And that's really, you're kind of having the same conversation on both ends. The initial sale of talking to people about concrete, and then the care side of it, of here's what you do now that you have it. They're the same conversation. It's setting the right expectations and knowing what they could do. And that's a great spot right there to be in with that customer and go, hey, as long as we're talking about this, we have a service contract, or I know someone that offers a service contract, and, it works out for everyone.
Yeah.
There's cost of ownership and everything. Your cars need to be maintained. Your house needs to be maintained, and so does the stuff in it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything. And there's maintenance is a big part of it. And I think my location, is a benefit for this type of stuff, because those houses aren't full-time houses. A lot of the houses that we're working in, they're constantly being cleaned. They have a full-time cleaning crew that comes in and does all that stuff. So but I still always don't overpromise.
Right.
Even though I know the odds of these countertops getting abused are slim to none.
Right.
Where in certain other situations, a chef's type kitchen, you have to make sure you're honest with them from the beginning and tell them what to expect and say, listen, you're going to have to be careful of X, Y, and Z because these are potential downfalls.
Sure. I mean, look at the coffee shops and all the places it goes into, especially now with all the takeout, there's more and more things being slid and handed over the counters. Commercial bars, they take a beating, and I can't tell you the number of times that people go, yeah, well, I'm going to use this sealer on that has a 5-day full cure, and they're going to open tomorrow at noon. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, I guess you're going to do it, but you need to let the people know, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we recommend, and let them choose not to. And then again, here we come full circle yet one more time of why you should charge to go back and fix surfaces. And it's not always sealers. There's other things. There's, chips and sometimes cracks or seams that didn't get put together the right way, which are all topics for a future discussion. But, I know everyone that's listening to this is probably screaming for, make us a video to show us how to repair stuff. So we'll have to put that one on the list and get that done.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can absolutely. I think we can do a couple of different repair videos, show some different techniques for removing stains, rings, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then we can discuss about, why they happen and how to avoid it. But so just to recap this conversation, repairs can be a source of income. They can be a great stream. Kind of the process is, assess what the issue is, what sealer was used, if you can, assess the condition of the countertop and the surrounding areas, kind of determines who owns the countertops or vanity tops or whatever. Do a cost assessment and make sure that you're considering all those things: your labor, your travel, your consumables, your products that you're going to use, your overhead, because that still comes all the time. And, if anyone out there has questions on any of that stuff or what to take into consideration, you can always email me. It's just bob@trinic.us, and I'll be happy to help with that, just to make sure that you're profitable. You figure your markup and you go and talk to the customer about it. And if you are interested in setting up maintenance contracts, things like that, then I'd be happy to talk to you about those as well and the options, or get a hold of the guy that's closest to you that does that kind of work and partner with him. You can make a little bit of money on it. You'll be making, getting him some work, things like that. So, man, John, I really appreciate you being on again. It's so valuable talking to you. Your years in the business of kind of coming up the hard way have really paid off. I mean, I think Joe was the one that mentioned it last on the first episode, there was no real learning around when we started. And it was that proverbial school of hard knocks. So thanks to you for sticking with it and being here and giving it back. How can people get a hold of you if they want to pick your brain and touch base?
I guess the easiest way would be, you can get me at Bluebird Concrete on Instagram, and my number's on there, and you can message me through that.
That's cool. Awesome. So, hey, everyone, again, appreciate you watching. To help us out, subscribe, punch the like button a bunch of times, and share this if you can, if you feel led to. Comments below, keep them coming, because like I said, there's other people out there that are in the same boat you are, the same boat we are, and we just want to bring everyone together so we can have this sort of beneficial community of people that can glean some of the, from some of the mistakes that we've made, or learn some of the tips that we might know, or share tips with any of the other viewers, just because, hey, we're all in this together, and at the end of the day, we want to move this industry forward. So thanks so much. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.